Okay, so as part of the pen experiment, I'm wanting to just take this piece of wood and just mark it about from where I'm going to go from the edge up to the top. So I've got that much to play with. Okay, right, so I've got a couple of options. The first is to actually just carve the top until it is about that thick, and just tap it into the wood lathe. I think I'm going to like that method first because it requires less tools, and I'm trying to do this at the bare minimum. Then the other possibility is that I just turn this bit with the spike, so have that, turn it and make that part thin enough that it fits into the miter part. So first of all, I'm going to try it by actually doing it the other way of just making sure that's roughly in the center, and hopefully I can actually start marking out the areas that I want to actually go from. So I'm just popping this on. So I'm hoping that that should allow me to actually fit this into the miter slot. So I'm just going to use I'm either going to use standard blade or a chisel. I haven't decided yet. I'll start off with the standard blade, but then I might move to the chisel as and when I see it. So let's get my sharps gloves on and let's just give that a try. So the minimum I need to have that on is about quarter or half of what we're aiming for here. So let's just taper that. So as always, safety first, I always put on sharps gloves. So basically if there is a blade that just cuts, it stops it. I've never had any issue so far, but I don't want to run the risk of cutting myself, so I'm just slowly tapering it, comparing it to the thinness of the dead stop, and I'm just doing it small amounts at each time, trying to keep it as centre as possible, because obviously this is going to be put into the live centre, or the headstock, and so that's going to be the bit that I would need to spin on axis. So I've just about got it at a point where I'm willing to actually pop it into the actual headstock, and so I need to remove the pointy part. So this is me just using a rod to knock it out. Sometimes I need to give it a bit of a whack because it's normally being pressed in. So I just give it a whack, that pops out, and then I can actually compare the to see if I'm on the right route. And it was pretty much almost there, so I now jump to actually finishing off the remaining part of it. Now, although I'm cutting towards myself, I've got it small movements to, so I'm not actually pushing with the hand, I'm pushing actually with the arm. That way I can't actually, it's less likely to overshoot. So it's now sticking in, and so I'm just wondering if I can actually just tap it in the remainder of the way. So let's just do that. And just a little tap. Move that out of the way just now. Okay. So that should be able to spin. So now the only issue that I might have is it spinning straight? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a center point in this end. I'll put a center point in this end. I'll line it up using the center and push that so that hopefully that pushes it in straight, and then I'll release and I'll put the drill bit in, and hopefully I can actually drill this out. So hopefully, wish me luck. So I'm just actually marking out the center point, and basically I go from each corner, draw a line, and then that takes into account the thickness of the pen not being perfectly right up next to the red mark, like red ruler, and then therefore I got a sort of little box in the center which I then mark with the awl. This is I've got an awl in a little pot behind. And as I do the bumbling back and forward, as I learn where different bits are. So obviously it's not in shot, but I am just putting a centre part in it. Obviously I'm not pushing from the back of that all there, otherwise it could have slipped and stabbed me in the stomach. So this is me just tapping it on the ground, or on the back of it. And now that the centre point is done, I can now centre it into the lathe. So a little bit of a hammer tap. Centre point. And okay. And now I'm going to bring in the live centre as I do a little bit of a tidy up, because of course I've put these tools on a handiwork surface which is actually the lathe bed, and so I need to clear that before I actually slide it in, but it shows how messy and untidy I am. Be careful for yourself about your own safety bit. So I centre it up to the point, and once I am happy I'm going to lock off the tailstock after I've actually done a little bit of extra adjustment, just to basically give enough give for the movement. I'll lock off the tailstock, and then when I initially start turning it, you'll see that the tailstock is moving, not the wood itself. So at the minute the pressure of putting the wood in is higher than the locking mechanism of the tailstock. so I had to redo it. So I'm winding in back into the live center, moving it forward, and then I do an extra bit of pressure just to actually really make sure it's stocked in, and now it should be the wood that moves.
This is pushing it in to the chuck there.
And there's only one way to find out if it's straight, and that's to drill into it. I then realised I shouldn't be spinning with gloves on.
So now I want to see, can I actually drill into this?
So I've now got actually the mask on, and as a result I've got a muffled voice. So I'm wearing a face visor with a filter just to protect me from any sawdust. As you can see, the wood is actually spinning with the lathe, and the drill bit will remain stationary, and that's how it cuts. It's sort of like reverse how you normally would cut. At this point I'm sort of not quite sure if there's too much wobble on the actual drill bit itself or the drill itself, because somebody complained about me using or somebody educated me rather about using the word drill instead of drill bit. So the drill is just wobbling a little bit more than I would like, so in order to be a little bit safer, I decided to actually use a smaller bit so it was a lot more stable and get it initially started with it. I'm probably proceeding a little bit too slow at this stage, as I didn't want to rush it and cause any pressure on it, and I was having to take it out periodically to actually remove some of the sawdust. Now I've went to the larger bit, and what I'm doing is I'm just using the back wheel to progress it slowly. Once I get to the end of how much it can go out, I'm actually moving the tailstock in. I've also just got an old toothbrush to actually brush out the sawdust. As I say, I was learning as I was going, and also I was just checking the pen periodically, just see once it actually stuck in, and as you can see, that's it nicely stuck in, and I'm ready to now cut it to pieces. And I skipped over actually the turning part because there's plenty of videos out there where you can actually see all this turning. So this is me just finishing it off. I'm just using a parting tool, and I'm just basically, like, I've done all the sanding and the oiling on the main pen body, so I'm just finishing it off at the tip. So I'm just getting it smaller and smaller until I'm happy enough that it's thin enough that I can then just use a little pull saw after giving it a bit of sanding. I think I also just put a bit of oil on it just to finish it off there. The handsaw just to take the last bit away, and then I've now I'm noticing that I've got the little hole out there. I've just grabbed the chisel to try and chisel that off, and then I've realised that I needed a sharper chisel. Okay, so I think this will jump back to commentary.
And how does it right? That's good for me. Scoping. Out. Tools. So that's my first attempt at a pen. So I've got the cost of the wood, which was just over £1 I think for the blank. The cost of the pen, which was £2 for a pack of 30. The oil which I have for my cutting board, so I can't remember, I think it was about £6 for the oil, but obviously I've had that about 3 or 4 years ago. The drill bit, I think it was about 2 for £6, so obviously I only used the so that's £6, 7, 8. So I think if I do it that, I'm just saying for one pen, if I only made one and I didn't do anything more on it, then that is the cost of £20. But obviously every time I make one, the drill bits are going to get used the same, and so on and so forth, and therefore it becomes a bit cheaper. Now I haven't, I've just oiled the pen, I haven't done anything fancier with the finishes. I'm just gonna see what happens with it and just see what it looks like. So hopefully you actually enjoyed watching it. There's obviously more in-depth pen videos out there. I was just trying to see how cheap I could actually make it as a first try. Obviously it's not going to be perfect, but it's managed to push fit in, and I haven't actually needed to press it any further. I've still got some tooling marks, but that's just because I'm just starting out as a turner, and I've also got the little hole at the top, which obviously I can maybe just put some sort of thing on top, but to be fair, I'm actually alright with that, so happy days. So thank you very much, and I will probably be looking at this wood under the microscope as well. See you later in Scoping Out Tools. Bye for now.